I absolutely adore Star Fox. It's one of the most unique Nintendo series out there, full of iconic characters and gameplay. From Star Fox Assault, which has to be my personal favorite for quite some time, to Star Fox 64, which is probably objectively better, to Star Fox Command, which I dropped after a few hours because it was so boring, Star Fox Adventures, that I tried to play as a kid, but got too scared over mushrooms or something, to the original Star Fox, which I just never really got around to beating. Only 5 games, well, there's still probably a lot more Star Fox to enjoy. There's only 2 other games I never even played. Yeah, so it's no secret that Star Fox is in a bit of a rut, but that doesn't mean we can't look back at the previous greatness of the series. And today, I want to talk about Star Fox Assault. Being the 4th game in the series and the second continuation of the lore, Star Fox Assault has a lot going for it. The characters and dialogue aren't as quotable as Star Fox 64, but it still has some great interactions. The music is godly as always, and of course the main topic of today, the individual missions. While 10 is a bit lower than what Star Fox 64 has, I find that Star Fox Assault still has some amazing level in its core. Some are not as amazing, but we'll get into that with the ranking. First, I want to set some guidelines. What goes into a great mission? Well, for me personally, map design is pretty high on the priority list. Enemy design and placement are pretty important as well. On the lower end, I will also have music, bosses, theming, and some other minor stuff into consideration. Most importantly, it has to be fun. If I'm not having a good time, then it's not worthwhile. Now, without further ado, let's get into the ranking. First off, we have Fortuna, the first mission, and this is a very easy S tier. Yes, we're already starting this strong. Well, I say Fortuna, but you spend the first half of the level in space. Both tracks are amazing here. The first being a high energy track that goes amazingly with the attack against Oikone's fleet, and the second being a heroic chase down. The landscapes are absolutely gorgeous. It's a great shame that we don't get to go to Fortuna in the multiplayer. It being the first stage, the game doesn't get too hectic with enemies or obstacles, but still gives you a great deal of variety. You also get 2 bosses, one with Oikone, which is relatively easy, but it is a great introduction to bosses, as well as being a cute little homage to Andross. And after that we have this Aperoid B? I don't know the names to these specific bosses, but this one is also pretty darn good. Especially the little detail that you can still shoot it while it's doing some attacks, that you wouldn't expect that you could hit through. Overall, this is a perfect introduction to the game. Now you might be expecting things to fall off immediately with Fortuna being so high, but next we have Katina, which is easily my favorite mission in the game. Yes, really, a stage where you never touch the R-Wing and it's an easy S tier. How does this happen? Well, just like Fortuna, this stage is a great introduction to on-foot gameplay, as well as the Landmaster. Enemies are either designed or placed in a way where going on foot for most of the map is pretty fun, so the game gives you some great leeway to go about things in your own way. It has multiple objectives that introduce some harder Aperoids, Hatchers, and then finally a pretty neat boss. It's pretty easy, but being skilled enough to stay on it to minimize the amount of time to take it down is pretty damn fun. The stage is perfect, the enemies are mostly perfect, the music is absolutely amazing, your allies aren't a big pain to save, great variety. This stage just has it all except for an R-Wing section. Well hey, I got some great news! This next stage has R-Wings. But I also have some bad news. This is the worst mission in the game. Now you might be wondering how this could possibly be the worst. You storm a bandit base, you fight Starwolf, you get to shoot Slippy! Disclaimer, shooting Slippy is in fact not fun. Please do not abuse these cute, well-meaning frogs. Well, it's just how it's designed that really irks me. The map is very vertically aligned. The only one like it if memory serves correctly. Now, what does this mean? If you fall from a higher area, you have to take time to get right back where you were. It isn't that much of a walk, but it's still annoying when it happens. Not to mention, this is one of the few stages that has this little gauge up here. What does it mean? Take too long in the place and you lose a life. How do you get it down? By going outside in your R-Wing and going ham on enemies. Sounds fine, right? The R-Wings are located at the bottom of the area. Realistically, you shouldn't be in fear of getting a life taken away like this, but the fact that if you're more of a methodical player and that you need to go all the way back down to deal with the gauge, then go back to wherever you were before just really gets under my skin. But hey, we have Starwolf, right? That's such a fun boss! Well, they completely destroyed any amount of fun you could have with this fight. Panther and Leon? Brain dead. And they don't even go after their rival spaceships. Oh, Falco and Crystal do get in trouble, but it's always the nameless enemies that get on their tail. And Wolf is a little more aggressive, but he's so easy to take down anyways that it barely even matters. Also, the music is okay, I guess. This mission is just not fun at all. Speaking of not fun, okay, actually, Fachina is okay. Has some great stuff in it, has some bad stuff. Let's just get into it. We have another on-foot mission this time around, and do you remember the praise I gave Katina for letting you go about the mission with either on-foot gameplay or the Landmaster? Yeah, good luck with that here. In Katina, the game gives you plenty of paths to avoid the giant enemies, and plenty of weapons to make the small fry cry. Whereas Fachina decides that both of those decisions were actually a bad thing. Weapons? Other than one rocket launcher halfway through, you're not getting anything. Enemy design? How about you get 2 giant snails right next to one of the towers? Which, can I just say how much I hate this enemy? They're usually not that bad in most cases, just roll pretty early and keep up the firepower and you should be fine. The issue with these 2 right next to the last tower is that they don't show their weak spot unless you're right on top of it, which goes completely against the design of the enemy. While you're luring one out, you have to deal with the other blasting you from afar, and the other small guys giving you shit as well. It's not fun. Anyways, you deal with the 3 towers and you get to the base in the center. And this defensive part with the security enemies is okay. And then you get a ride with Falco on his R-Wing, which is a pretty cool moment. Pretty fun as well, but then you get to the boss, which is probably the lamest one there is. Easy to avoid its one attack, the minions... Can they even hurt you? And the only way to beat it is with smart bombs, making the fight very limiting. The mission has some pretty awesome music, and the middle is some pretty solid stuff, but I can't save the beginning and end from putting it in only B tier. Next we have Meteo, which, hey, it's our second on-rails R-Wing level. Sadly, this one is just sort of bleh. First, let me just get the biggest problem out of the way, and it's that your allies are super annoying to rescue in the stage. They get in trouble quickly, get hurt quickly, fly around quickly. It's just super obnoxious trying to save everyone here. Secondly, the obstacles in the stage are pretty obnoxious as well. Mainly these crane arms, which I'm pretty sure you gotta go above them to properly avoid. But you also got enemies on the floor, so if you want a good score, you have to point yourself downwards, and do you see the problem? It's just awkward. Outside of that, everything else is just there. This prototype enemy makes a reappearance. The other obstacles are there, the music exists, the boss is okay. Outside of the few annoying things, it's just kind of boring. Thankfully, the game starts picking up real quickly around this part, and we have Saria, a personal favorite of mine. And yes, of course, it's going in S tier, even if the lower end. First of all, isn't it awesome how we get to go back to Saria? I might not have a whole lot of experience with Star Fox Adventures, but it still feels awesome that this planet gets some love outside of its own game. Not to mention, this mission is short and sweet. Defeat the enemy hatchers. That's it. It doesn't take a long time and is fun all the way through. It's also one of the few missions that lets you use both the Landmaster and R-Wing, as well as being able to go on foot. This freedom, along with a lot of the hatchers being accessible with all 3 types of gameplay, makes the mission awesome to mess around with and replay. And the enemy design feels pretty darn fair as well. Obvious times to use different types of weapons depending on enemy variety and placement, being able to explore these ruins, the awesome music, God, I love this mission so damn much. And you can shoot Crystal! Disclaimer, shooting Crystal does not make this mission amazing. Please refrain from shooting scientifically hot foxes that I myself do not find hot. So why is it on the lower end of S tier? Well, I mentioned it being short and sweet as a positive, and I still stand by that, but that also makes the mission a little uneventful. And lastly, it's probably the least important mission to the plot. It still serves a purpose, but it also feels like you could take it out and nothing would really change. Well, except for us forever missing out on one of the best missions in the game. Next up we have Corneria, and this is a pretty damn good mission. First I want to go over the 2 negatives, one being the music. It's not bad, but it's probably one of the weaker themes in the game. Secondly, the boss. It's great thematically, but goodness does it drag. especially when all you're doing is shooting it constantly. Now with that said, this is such a great mission. The on-foot portion feels great. Corneria is huge, and being able to explore the place with only the weapons on your back feels super oppressive. Not to mention you get a unique enemy to take out, that being these radar jammers. And they're right out in the open, just mostly hiding behind buildings. It's completely up to you to find vantage points to take them down with your sniper. And after that, we get another section where you ride on someone else's ship. And this time it's Wolf. And the Corneria theme being replaced by the Star Wolf theme is just a great feeling. If it wasn't for the boss being so lackluster, this would be an easy S. But as it stands, they'll have to settle with just an A. Now if you never played Star Fox Assault, this might be one stage you know. The Orbital Gate is the only Assault location to be used in Super Smash Bros. You know, that one stage that took the devs a full year to create? It being in such a high honor must mean it's a great mission, right? Well, it's good. Like, it isn't bad, and it has some pretty big positives. First of all, this is the only full all-range mode mission in the game, and it gives off heavy Katina vibes from 64. Add like ships being mixed in with enemies being everywhere, it's just a very epic feeling. And the music is amazing as well, even if it's taken straight from the first mission's first half. It stays consistently fun throughout the entire mission as well, which not a lot of missions can say. So why is it only in B tier? Well, the first half of the stage is pretty aimless, just shoot anything in sight. You don't have any explicit goal. And then, once enough time passes, you need to take out these missiles heading for the gate. Take out the small ones, the medium ones, the one big one, and then, it's over. It's a super short mission, with the boss being a missile barrage rather than anything really substantial. It's like Sector Z, and just like it, this mission is fun, but ultimately not anything groundbreaking. No wonder it didn't come back in Ultimate. We're nearing the end of the game with the Aparoid homeworld, or Aparoid City, whichever you want to call it, and honestly, this mission is kind of bad. It has some really nice music for one thing, and the areas themselves are pretty fun to explore. The issues come from enemy design being thrown out the window, and then just throwing everything in the kitchen sink at you. Small corridors, some of the more obnoxious enemies in the game. It doesn't get as bad as the two snails in Pachina, but it's still pretty damn bad. I mean, hey, this is the only other mission where you can freely use all three playstyles, but the Landmaster is heavily restricted and can't even reach a single hatcher by itself, and the R-Wing, it's relegated to just getting to an area faster because trying to take down enemies on the ground with this thing is a fruitless effort. You'll likely be shot down, get killed, and have to start all over. Yes, I never mentioned it before, but this game is pretty lenient on checkpoints, and if you die at any point destroying the first wave of hatchers, you have to do it all over again. Somewhere around 10 minutes if you got really close. This is a problem throughout the game, but this is the only time where it gets super noticeable because of how long it is and how obnoxious the enemies are. Is there a light at the end of the tunnel? Nope. After you take care of the hatchers on the surface, you have to get in your R-Wing and take care of the ones below the stage. And then the mission is over. Anticlimactic, not very fun, just overall a pretty big low point of the game. It deserves that C tier. At least you can run over Crystal. Disclaimer, running over Crystal is actually fun. I highly encourage it. Lastly, we have the Homeworld Core, the final mission of the game, and honestly it gets to be an A tier. Glad this game goes out on a high note. To get the negatives out of the way, the music is merely okay, and some of the obstacles can be especially obnoxious. Mainly the closing doors here. Oh, and the mission sometimes blindsides you. Other than that, it's a pretty climactic final on rails to R-Wing section. Saving your allies isn't too much of a hassle, enemies and layout is pretty fun, some pretty memorable moments, and the final boss is pretty alright too. Other than a few moves that I don't get how to dodge, it's pretty damn fun. Yeah, honestly, I don't have much else to say, it's just a fun mission to end the game with. And there we have it. Here's the final list. Honestly, I'm really happy with the relatively good batting average with this game. Star Fox Assault means a lot to me, and I'm glad that you decided to stay here for the whole video. And who knows, maybe next time I'll rank the other half of Star Fox Assault, that being the multiplayer stages. Either way, I hope you all have a wonderful day.
All ships are home. Not a bad start.
I'm over here stroking my dick. I got lotion on my dick right now.